What is up, guys? Pittsburgh White Schwartz back again. We're going to do 2 Love Rude deck tech today. This is like your pretty standard YaMikan bar wind build.
More like Lolicon.
Oh, yeah, basically. Owning this deck might send you to jail, but it is an old set that does kind of like keep up these days, sort of like by the nature of its endgame, like having certain abilities and stuff like that. So we wanted to like go over it. I think recently it broke into, I think it got 4th at a BCS event.
It does match up really nicely against some of the top tier decks.
So the deck can definitely still hang, and I have it on hand, so I wanted to do a deck tech on it. So let's start with the level 0s. We run 3 of this Yami, this sitting Yami. When you play other transformation and housework characters, she ramps up 1,000 power for each other one you play. And then when she gets reversed, she has resonate with the level 3 Yami. You reveal it, and then you get to clean cut a character to the back row. Clean cuts that you have to resonate with, like, I don't like holding these in hand at level 0, because it does kind of like make your hand objectively worse because you're trying to sculpt for level 1, since your level 1 can search out stuff. But like 2 Lover is an old set, we kind of got to deal with what we have. And this card is pretty good and can like ramp up on your own turn. So we definitely keep it in the list. When you do get that clean cut, since you don't have like runners and stuff in the set, and like you're mostly relying on oversizes and big cards to field plus, cutting stuff to the back row is one of your only ways to like play around people getting a bunch of on reverse combos off on you. Because when you can combo off first in the deck, we'll get there, you have ways to stop your opponent from getting reverses. Alright, moving on, we run 3 of this Loves Licking Maya oversized from the trial deck. Her only drawback is that she can't side attack. So just a super basic oversize. And these are like our main beaters here. But yeah, that's all we got. in our beater lineup, yeah. Moving on to brainstorms, we got this Mikan. So she's actually a really cool brainstorm. So she's a rest 2 search brainstorm, which like kind of sucks. But the way our back row wants to look level 1, that's not too bad that it's rest 2. And she's a search brainstorm. Her other effect is really cool. She has ditch a card from hand, grab a character from clock yourself on play. So that's like a pretty good effect to have on like a brainstorm that you want to throw out anyway. So yeah, that's our brainstorm for the deck. Moving on to our giant list of 2-ofs that we play at level 0. We play 2 of this Yui. She's a clock bomb for 0s, and then if she's the only other character on your field, like if you have this out, if you have this board, she buffs your other character by 1,500. So like this board and this board, if you have a Yami in hand, is actually super sick, because this will be massive, and then you get to cut the bomb to the back row. So like it's a pretty good going second play. It is notably off trait. It's animal trait, unlike the rest of our deck, which is transformation housework. But it's just such a good like opening play with the clean cut. Like this little package is like pretty damn good. Or even with the regular oversize, sending it to 15, because bombs, your opponent usually sides them. They have like pseudo evasion kind of. So yeah, just a like very decent card to have in our opening lineup. You're gonna see a lot of 0s in this list, mostly because like the set is old and some of its best tech for keeping in the game is at level 0. So alright, we also have this sitting Maya. When she gets reversed, you get to pay 1 and put her in clock. Look at the top 2 cards of your deck and add 1. She helps you get to level 1 first and like get into your combo pieces. Like, she's not very useful in the late game at all. She's like complete and total chaff, because you think like, oh, if she gets reversed, I can like gamble and look at the top cards, but you have to send her to clock anyway, so you like take extra damage, so it's not very good. She just helps you get into your level 1 stuff. If for some reason you're not good enough to like trigger a bar and get it into your hand for your level 1 combo, you can use Maya to help get you there, but she's a pretty decent tech. Alright, I'm running out of 0 space here. We also run this sitting Mikan at 2. So this is the anti-salvage. If you have this on the board, if your opponent takes a character from their waiting room back to their hand, their entire board loses 3 soul. So it's not that as disruptive as you think, because your opponent can just attack with their salvager last and then salvage on their last attack after they've done damage to you. So your opponent can play around it, but like it's still a card that's like pretty funny to throw out on people, because people won't read it and people won't remember, and then you can just say, oh, you took that card to your hand. You don't let them go back, and then they don't do any damage to you.
And at the very least, they have to play around it.
It triggers off of their gates too.
Yeah. So they can't take cards off gate.
If they're running gates in their deck, it can be a real...
basically nullifies the entire climax.
That's one of the things that made Lovery such a powerful deck.
And it's also, it's also 500 in front, so it's like not a terrible card to have on the field, since we're running like beefy zeros to field plus.
Especially in context of the English meta.
Yeah, this card back in the day used to be so good. There's a lot of top-tier
decks that run gate.
Yeah.
Love Live runs it, Konosuba, Fang Dream sometimes.
Yeah. All right, next zero. We run 2 of this $25 box topper. So this card is unbelievably expensive, and all it does is come in play and give something 1,500 power.
I'm gonna go build Lovery right now.
We are
such a good deal.
We are running an on reverse combo at 1. This helps pump. We're also running a lot of other stuff. Like this has natural synergy with the clean cut. Other stuff in a level 1 lineup, because like these are pretty puny if we need to get reverses, but like it's just like I have found myself using it in exactly the situation where it is theoretically good, but like the fact that this is a $25 card in English is just like insanity to me.
Can you build a deck without that?
Yeah. If you were gonna build a deck without this, you would honestly, I'd do this. I'd bump up these cards more, or even run a 4th Brainstormer. Probably a 4th Brainstormer.
Yeah.
You definitely don't need these, but like they do help. They help bring the list together, because like you do like sometimes like, oh, I just need a little bit more power to get a reverse outside of backups. You could also just run more of this card, which is a Drop Searcher from the trial deck. It's a pay 1, ditch 1, search your deck, and then it is 3k on play. So like you can drop search turn 2, like your second 0 turn, and have something to win board with. So like that's pretty cool. It's a pretty decent drop search. I used to run this at 3 and cut down on it to fit like these clean cuts back in the list, because one of the big problems with this list when you're not running the clean cut is like leaving a board, since you're running these beefy stuff in this bomb. So like you're leaving stuff for your opponent to reverse, and since you're an old set, you don't have ways to punish the same way that newer sets do for like level locking and stuff like that. You really have to you're definitely going to have to play very smart if you're playing this list in like the current meta, but like you do have the tools to kind of survive, especially against stuff like Konosuba. But yeah, this is our 0 lineup. I think we're running 19 zeros. It's a lot, but like I said, most of our good tech is at 0, so
how many trial decks do you need for those 2 TD cards?
I believe you get 2 in the trial deck. Okay. You get 2 and 2, so you only need 2 TDs, or you can just go on TCG Player and buy them. They're
are they that expensive? Or?
No, the trial deck 2 level cards are not too expensive.
All right. Good. Yeah.
So let's move on to level 1s. This is our main level 1 climax combo. This YaMikan here, what is it? Putting away clothes YaMikan, is putting away underwear, of course, because it's 2 level. It combos with the gold bar. Taiyaki Keyholder also comes in a Stoxel, which is a yellow card, but like the bar is just so much better for consistency that we're gonna run the bar. So yeah, this is a 5,500. If all your characters are transformation or housework, it sits at 55. And then when you reverse, you get to search your deck for a transformation or housework character. So it's like your basic Shimakaze. Back in the day, this was a lot better than it is now, but the fact that it's gonna sit at 55 cross turn with the way our like level 1 board is gonna look is really important for like the current metagame, and I'll explain why. Next card we run, since we're not running that like rune change package, since like it's very overcosted and like the cards that you need to run aren't very good with it, we're running, this is our level 1 fill. It is just a 500 for each of your other transformation or housework characters, so she's gonna sit at 65, and it's just another YaMikan. And in fact, these cards look way too fucking similar. Next card is this Yami. So this is our other back row card. This gives 500 in front to your transformation or housework characters and gives them hand on core. That is really important. That's one of like the trolliest things you do with this deck is you can give your level 1 combos hand on core and you're probably triggering bars, and like that's really how the deck keeps up, because what this card also does is like, oh, how are you going to get reverses past level 1 with 6500 with Climax Shimikaze? This card also combos with Taiyaki Keyholder to give any character on your field 2000 power. So you're giving like spot 2000 pumps, and that can help you get like you can go all the way to 9k. So like that's really what you're looking on to like keep you in the game. Your ideal back row is going to be like, your ideal level 1 board is probably going to be like this, and then your Brainstormer in the back row. And that's why I said Rest 2 doesn't really hurt too much here, because we want to have this board in the back like throughout the whole game. So yeah, we have one more card at level 1 here, and it is a very important one. It's definitely a boring card. This Maya wrapped in ribbons. So she's a 2k costless backup, which is very important. So like I said, with this board, guys, you got to understand, this sits at 6k. What does Union go to? 7. So what does this backup send us to? 8. So basically, the fact that this deck kind of matches up okay against Konosuba from a like theoretical standpoint, like, is what I think a big reason to like still maybe run this deck. The fact that like it deals with those thresholds, and like our finisher is like immune to like one of the spookiest threats that Konosuba has, and we'll explain that when we get to her. But yeah, so like if you play intelligently with these cards, you can definitely deny a lot of that level 1 on reverse combo stuff that goes on in English, which really helps the deck kind of like keep up. And then this, of course, the power pump, the double combo with Taiyaki Keyholder also helps keep you in the game. So yeah, that's our level 1s. Again, like these are gonna seem like boring effects, and that's because they are, but like
they're boring but efficient.
They're like boring but efficient old effects, which, you know, keeps them up, keeps them moving. So all right, we're gonna go on our level 2s. Very, very small level 2. We run one of this Mikon. She gets, what is it? She gets like 3k when she's across from a level 3, and then if she attacks last, she goes up an additional 2k because she gets 1,000 and the other one's attack. So like this card definitely sucks, right?
Yeah, that's
like
bad.
This is terrible. This is a terrible level 3 killer. However, it's like our only option in these colors. You don't have to run this. If you're just gonna say I don't care about level 3 hate or whatever, that's totally fine. You can run double of our next card, because like this card isn't great, but it's kind of all we have. What the other one we have is this Mikon. So this is a level assist in front, but the more important effect is it has a change where it changes into this level 3, which is a healer. So the change cost is actually pretty okay. So like I don't see a lot of people run it, which is weird to me, because like the way the deck works is as long as you're playing it right and you're lucky enough to get some reverses off, you're probably plussing enough to keep in the game. So a ditch 2 and sacrifice this to change into this really isn't that much of a cost, since like you don't really have good early play support anyway. So like you kind of have to use your early play to deal with your opponents. Like ditch 2 is pretty hefty, but considering that Yami like cantrips and draws into her own climax and a bunch of other stuff, it's really not that bad of a cost. So if you hate this, you can just double up on this and kind of run that in to get these out. And this is a I'll get to it, but it's just a boring healer. But yeah, that's our level 2. Pretty boring, but you know, it is what it is. Old set. So yeah, moving on to level 3s, I guess I'll talk about this now. So this Mikon, she gets 500 for each of your other transformation or housework characters, and she heals on play or change. So just
that one has a Kanahana.
Yeah, this one has a Kanahana signature.
So
very important.
Very important.
Very important
Reason to
Kanahana
play the deck.
signature. Yeah, very good reason to play the deck. But yeah, she walls up, like, it's fine. Like, it's a card, it's a heal. Heals are important. The change is, like, okay. You do it if you need to. If you need a heal, you play this card. Yeah, oh my god, this card is so old. We run this Maya. She's look at X. If for some reason, like 3 draw 2 ditch ones aren't enough to get into our win, we can play this. And she also goes to like 1500 on attack. So like, or 14.5 on attack. Yeah. So she during your turn it gets 1,000 for each of your other transformation or housework characters. So that's pretty good. She's like a real big beater, but like obviously like that's not very good when your finisher like cantrips so hard and filters. So she's just a one of. All right, the big girl herself, the reason why this deck's so good, Yami. So Yami is a 10/5 if you have a board, and she also has hexproof. Hexproof is really important because that means she can't get clock kicked by Megumin. One of the big reasons that you know, this deck is still like around and like not doing terrible is like hexproof on a finisher, and her finisher effect is also free and also good. She draw 2 ditch ones on play, so she draws into her own climax, which is this wind. So she draws into her own climax, and then on attack she gives herself and another character an instance of cancel burn. Like, so burn 1 when your opponent cancels. So if you have 3 of these set, you can attack, give this, so you get 1. You can attack, give it to itself, so it has 2 instances of cancel burn, 1, and then attack 2 and 2. So like, you're gonna have 1 instance, 2 instance, 2 instance, or you can do 1, give it here, 1, give it here, and then have this have 3. So, you know, depending on your opponent's deck state, you can set up some pretty nasty stuff. And again, we're running this level 1, right, that gives our entire board of transformation and housework characters hand on core, right? So you can, if you draw into like 2 wins and your opponent, like your deck state is like kind of fine and you don't have to like ditch it, you can just encore and like you can just do this again because your opponent can't. They'd have to hard remove your Yamis and they can't select them. So they'd have to clock kick them with more conventional clock kicks, to which just say the character across from this, put it in your opponent's clock, for them to actually hard remove it. So it's pretty spooky in the end game because like it's just gonna like when it's behind that support or in front of that support rather, because your opponent just can't get rid of it and you can just swing back in with it again. So yeah, it's just a very, very efficient and good finisher because it's free. You don't have to pay anything for that effect. So yeah, very strong. Okay, last level 3 card. The other card you're gonna take when you're drawing 2 and ditching 1, money counter, Project Darkness. So this is the like titular money counter. When you get attacked, you play this, your opponent can't do any damage to you in that lane. Because this is free, you're gonna have 3 stock. So if you see one of these come across your board, this is just another way you live. So because you're pitching cards, you don't have to like do something crazy like pay 3 encore. You don't have to ditch any cards to do your combo. You don't have to pay any stock. So you're gonna have at least 3. So your opponent is always going to have to play around this money counter, which is why it's really strong. Like this is another reason that Two Lover is still around, because you get to do this for free, which is already pretty destructive, and you get to threaten money counter if your opponent doesn't die. So it's just a very, very like efficient end game package here that's mostly just these 2 cards right here and not much else. All right, we already really talked about the climaxes, but I'll throw them out there for y'all just to, you know, give some closure, I guess. 4 wins and 4 bars. Like I said, there's also a stock soul yellow version of this, but like the bar is just 10 times better, because of course stock soul is not going to give power. This needs power. So yeah, that's basically the list. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun to play this against Konosuba players that think they're really good because all they do is sack into everything and kill you. But it's a really good old deck to troll Konosuba players with. If you have a lot of Konosuba players running around at your locals and they get mad at you when you play AOT, you can play 2 Lover instead.
How do you see the rest of the English meta? What do you say?
It's like decent. Like, it's still old. The fact that these, like, you need a backup to basically threaten board at level 1 with these. You can just hand encore them and not care, but like, again, then you're bleeding hand. You have to, like, you need to combo again to keep back up, but like, I don't know. You're gonna field at least 2 Yamis every game. The deck is pretty consistent, unless you like brick out. The big thing is like, it doesn't have a lot of mill tools, so one of the big things I missed, which I am now just remembering when I'm thinking about mill tools, this deck, this card, when you play it, has on play, you can choose to mill 3 cards, no other effect. This is like your only mill outside of brainstorming. So if you get stuck in a bad deck, don't have this card, you can get screwed. So like, I used to run this at 3 just to like have like on-demand mill to like try to fix a little bit, but like, that's the big thing this deck is missing, is you don't have the on-demand mill and deck fix that other decks have. So if you have a bad game, you're gonna have a bad game. So like, which is just, you're playing an old set. Like, that's just kind of how it is. Yeah. You're like giving up modern tools to have some like, what most people would consider like an overstated finisher in today's meta. Like, in today's meta, this combination of effects with money counter behind it is very strong. So you have to think, I'm kind of giving up my modern mill tools to run like this sort of package here, because this is our only real.
Is that mill up to 3 or just
3? Just mill 3 on play, and you can do it or you cannot. And that's it. And which is like, you know, this card, if your opponent's not running salvage, it's just dead. Otherwise, right? So it better have some sort of other effect. For only being 500 power. But yeah, it's sort of like, that's kind of the trade-off you're making. It is old, but it is fun, and you know, it has its own reasons to be played. Money counter's still really good. Like, what else has money counter in English now? Sao?
Yeah, Sao, and that's about it.
Yeah, I can't really think of anything. I'm sure I'm missing something.
I'm sure there's some road decks.
Yeah, I'm sure there's something else that has money counter, but like, the fact that your opponent, you kind of get to play this for free. It gets its own climax. It gets you this, which is good. That's why we're running 3 copies, right? Because we need to see Project Darkness, because this is basically how we win the game. It's kind of like 2-turning our opponent, where it's just like, you see a lot of Sal builds kind of go for 2 turns, but like Tulavru, like, you're going for like a 2-turn win.
Because you can't rely on that.
Yeah, you can't. Turn. This doesn't do a lot of explosive damage, and you know, because the deck is old, maybe you're behind in the damage race. So you kind of rely on this to 2-turn your opponent, and that's what kind of wins you games. But yeah, it's still effective. It's just like I said, if you're having a bad game, you're probably going to have a bad game. You're probably not going to be able to fix, because you are missing a lot of the modern mill tools, like Akatsuki's, just like on mill 4s on a stick, self-tap brainstormer, stuff like that. You don't have access to that. So just things to keep in mind. But yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for tuning in, guys. Like we keep saying, we are trying to get a deck tech out for every series that is in English right now. So if there's a specific one that you want to see next, let us know down in the comments. Drop a like. We're still trying to get out a lot of our set review stuff, some set preview stuff. I think Albuta is probably up.
It is.
At this point. So hope you guys enjoy that. And yeah, thanks for tuning in.